Councillor Eldon McDonald,
Here.
Councillor Perouche,
Here.
Councillor Parsons,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Edwards,
Here.
Councillor Tracy, Councillor Bruckschwager, Councillor O'Quinn,
Here.
Councillor Green.
Here.
Okay, we do have regrets from Councillor McMullen, and Councillor Ken Tracy is having some connection issues due to some flickering power, but will try to join as the power allows him. Is everything? Can you hear and see me okay, folks? Okay, good. Just making sure. Thank you. All right. So this morning we are going to start by the playing of our national anthem, and then as we after this we're going to head into the Black National Anthem. Just want to take a quick note or a moment to note that it is Black History Month, and everyone on council were able to get these wonderful shirts that are locally made from Powerful Creative. I just want to give a shout out to our wonderful Whitney Pier based business who just do such wonderful things in our community and help us with the learning and the celebration of Black history. So we'll start with our national anthem and then go into the Black National Anthem. Great. Sharon, we can't hear anything. Nope, we still can't hear it, Sharon. So what I could do in the interim just 1 second here. Can you hear that?
Nope. Okay.
Okay, I'm really sorry. We're having some technical difficulties, but we'll be able to play this at our next council meeting. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Lorne Green. Again, so sorry about the technical difficulties there. We thought we had it working for YouTube. Councillor Green is going to lead us in a moment of silent reflection this morning.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. For my fellow council colleagues and the broader community of CBRM, it gives me pleasure to read the memory of the late John Jack Adrian Parsons. Residents throughout CBRM, in particular residents in Whitney Pier in District 12, were saddened to hear the passing of John Jack Pearson, Saturday, February 4th, 2023. From a young age growing up in Whitney Pier, Jackie played many sports. He was a member of the Ward 6 Indian baseball team that captured the first Canadian Little League Championship in 1951. He played soccer for the Broadway Ramblers, coached and played hockey, and was active in creating the Whitney Pier Community Rink. Jackie enjoyed many decades at the Sooner Curling Club and his many friends he met there. Later in life, Jack took up golf until his past summer. He enjoyed his tee-off times at Alderdale with his good friends. Jackie started his working career on the lake boats at an early age. He then transitioned into the transatlantic laying ships. In 1972, Jackie joined the United Associations of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, where he worked until his retirement. Jackie held many positions within the union and was a proud 50-plus year member of UA. In 1991, Jackie was elected as alderman for Ward 6 in Whitney Pier, where he proudly served his constituents until 1995. Great comfort is provided in knowing that he has now joined his wife, Helen, and son, John. Jackie left a great legacy here in the community, and I know his legacy will live on through his children, Carolyn and David. On behalf of the mayor and council, I send condolences to Jackie's immediate family and friends.
Okay, we'll take a moment and provide our thoughts and our sentiments towards Jackie and his family. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Lorne Green, for that wonderful tribute as well. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could, I just want to, if I could, a couple of words on behalf of myself for Jackie's family. If it wasn't for Jackie, I wouldn't be involved in politics. He, in fact, encouraged me early on when the formation of the CBRM amalgamation. He encouraged me to get involved. Not necessarily to run against him, but he encouraged me. And I did actually run against him, but he wasn't offended at that. And I just want to say to his family, it was a great honor to have somebody like Jackie see something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. Thank you.
So lovely. Okay, we will now move to our first item of the agenda, which is approval of the agenda. So looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's moved by Councillor Steve Parsons, seconded by Councillor Cyril McDonald. Any discussion on that motion?
Question.
Question has been called. Council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Item 2 is proclamations. So I am going to head over to Councillor Cyril McDonald, and you are going to be reading the proclamation, and I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this right, Amyloidosis Awareness Month for March 2023.
You've got it as close as I've got it, I think, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you. Amyloidosis Awareness Month, March 2023. Whereas amyloidosis is a group of rare diseases that occur when an abnormal protein, amyloid, accumulates in the body's tissues and organs and is left untreated, can result in organ failure and often can be fatal. And whereas amyloidosis most often affects people in middle age, younger people have also been diagnosed with this disease. And whereas amyloidosis can be challenging to diagnose, as its signs and symptoms can mimic those of more common medical conditions, including shortness of breath, weight loss, fatigue, swelling in the ankles and legs, numbness in the hands and feet, foamy urine, carpal tunnel syndrome, bruising around the eyes, and an enlarged tongue. And whereas a timely and correct diagnosis can lead to better outcomes for patients and their families. And whereas raising awareness about all amyloidosis diseases, including hereditary and non-hereditary forms, helps to educate the public and is key to building healthier Canadian communities. And whereas the Canadian Amyloidosis Support Network Incorporated is all volunteer, not-for-profit organization formed by amyloidosis patients and their family members to raise awareness, fund research, and support those living with amyloidosis and their loved ones. Be it therefore resolved that CBRM Mayor Amanda M. McDougall-Merrill and Council proclaims the month of March 2023 as Amyloidosis Awareness Month in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, thank you. That was moved by Councillor Cyril McDonald, seconded by Councillor Gordon McDonald. Any discussion on that motion, Council?
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you so much for that, Councillor Cyril McDonald. On to item 3, which is delegation. We have with us today Sabrina Vatcher, the leader at our local YMCA. And I think it's funny to note, Sabrina, that the last time we had intended to have you at council, there was a snowstorm.
Yeah.
And here we are today. So just want to welcome you and excited to hear what you would like to present to not only council, but the wider community today. So welcome, Sabrina.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor McDougall, and thank you to Council for allowing room on today's agenda for me to come and speak with you today. So as Mayor McDougall said, my name is Sabrina Vatcher. I'm the CEO of the YMCA of Cape Breton. I've been in my role for just over a year now and so proud to be here today to share the story of our YMCA and the impact that we're making in communities across the island. So next slide, please. So hoping to cover that this is really an informational purposes presentation today, to just talk a bit about the history of the Y, our federated model, areas of impact, and then to talk about a couple of YMCA and municipal partnerships across the country. Next slide. So those who've never experienced a YMCA perceive it primarily as a pool and gym, but rather the YMCA is a place offering personal, family, and value-based opportunity to services of all people, backgrounds, income levels, and communities across the island. Next slide. Our YMCA is actually one of the oldest charities in Nova Scotia, or in Cape Breton. We were formed back in 1886 by an act of the province of Nova Scotia, and we continue to serve as a collection of proud, diverse, and enduring communities in the delivery of our mission. Our first facility actually opened on January 1st, 1898 at the corner of Pitt and Charlotte Street in Sydney. And the late 1800s saw the Y helping provide recreational and sleeping accommodations to help young men and newcomers to our growing Sydney community at that time. Next slide. Our Y has had a presence on Charlotte Street for more than 137 years, and our building has gone through many iterations, and I'm sure many of you have been members of the Y growing up in your family. Our Y was gifted a parcel of land in Ironville by the Y Service Club, and for over 60 years, we offered day and overnight camping to families from across the island with a focus on recreation and leadership for youth. In 1987, we opened the Enterprise Center in Glace Bay, and we're still there today providing employment services under the Nova Scotia Works umbrella. We also saw the introduction of our membership financial assistance program based on a great need of those with financial barriers. We wanted to make sure that we never turn anyone away looking for some of our services, especially in health and wellness, and this still rings true today. Next slide, please. For over 15 years, we operated a fitness center in the town of Port Hawkesbury, offering health and wellness programs and services. In 2010, we renovated our current location into a 60,000 square foot facility on Charlotte Street. With the new building, we began offering licensed childcare to our families. And in 2016, we entered into a partnership with Member2 to open a YMCA fitness center and their sports and wellness center. A great example of how two organizations sharing a common vision for a healthier community can work together. In 2019, we also introduced an after-school program in partnership with Community Cultures, Tourism and Heritage and some sites throughout the CBRM. And then in 2016, we also saw the Nova Scotia Works transformation in the province, where the province went from 52 to 18 service providers. And at that time, we began adding community employment services in the town of New Waterford. Next slide. Like every other organization, especially not-for-profits, the COVID pandemic certainly had a big impact on our YMCA, forcing closures of our gym and health and wellness services, employment centers, as well as our childcare centers. The staff worked so hard to be able to respond to the community and to be able to provide services when it was safe to do so. At the end of 2021, our YMCA responded to an EOI from the province, and we doubled our Nova Scotia work sites across Cape Breton, adding Port Hawkesbury, Inverness, and St. Peters, and for a time also covered the Acadian communities of Arishat and Shetty Camp. At the same time, we responded to another EOI from the province, this time from the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development, to expand our licensed childcare centers, as well as our before and after school program sites across the island. In September, we opened a new after school program in Tamarack Education in Port Hawkesbury. And just a couple of weeks ago in January, we opened a new after school program in Inverness. These are just a few examples of the growth and evolution of our Y. By adapting to the needs and expanding programs, our Y has and will continue to build healthy children, families, and communities across the island. Next slide, please. Definitely want to take the opportunity to talk about the work of my amazing team's accomplishments just in the past year. It's been a year of growth and opportunity at our YMCA. It was such an exciting time to be able to enter the organization. Our volunteer board of directors worked tirelessly through a process to update our governing documents. We launched a short-term strategic plan and focused on 3 key areas: sharing our story, increasing opportunities to thrive, and focusing on our people. So again, thanking you for being at today's council session so that I can share the story of our YMCA. We're seeing our membership numbers begin to grow towards those post-pandemic numbers, and currently we're just over 92% of membership numbers before COVID. All of our childcare centers and schools, as well as our Charlotte Street facility, are filled to capacity and with lengthy waiting lists. Truly speaks to the need of affordable and quality childcare in Cape Breton. When our community was unfortunately hit by Hurricane Fiona in September, we asked ourselves at the Y, how can we be best of service to our community? Well, that Monday morning, we opened our doors of our facility to anyone in needing a hot shower, a place to charge devices, something to eat, a hot cup of tea, and a place to stay warm. Well, I'm happy to share that we had over 4,000 visits to our YMCA sites on Charlotte Street and Membertou in that 1 week alone. In November, we celebrated YMCA Peace Week in a big way. We had events on site. We had a flag raising and a proclamation at CBRM by Councillor Cyril McDonald. Thank you very much, Councillor McDonald. And the presentation of peace medals to 2 very deserving nominees. Madonna Doucette from the Youth Project received our Individual Impact Award, while J Street Community Space in Sydney Mines received our Group Impact Award. It's been a year, and none of this would have been possible without our incredible team at the Y of staff and volunteers. They not only showed up, but they stepped up. So I definitely want to take this opportunity to thank all of our staff and volunteers at the Y. Next slide, please. The YMCA operates under a federated model with 39 member associations across Canada. Each Y offers programs and services tailored to the needs of their community, and each are governed by their own volunteer board of directors. Next slide, please. Our 3 main areas of impact here at the YMCA of Cape Breton are around health and wellness, childcare and after school care, and employment services, all supported by a very strong administrative back office team, and some of our offerings supported by our fund development work. So just a few stats to share with you on each of those. When it comes to health and wellness, we're just over 3,400 members strong between our Charlotte Street and Membertou facilities. We have over 600 kids in swimming lessons each and every week. And we have over 80 fitness classes offered by an incredible team of volunteers at both of our locations. When it comes to childcare, we have a 55 space center on Charlotte Street with an incredible team of early childhood educators. We have 135 children across the island in our after school programs in Sydney, Whitney Pier, Glace Bay, Port Hawkesbury, and Inverness. And we just announced in December that we are opening a new 26-space childcare center in Guysborough. So some people will ask, why is the YMCA Cape Breton operating off island and into Guysborough? Well, through the EOI, we learned that Guysborough was the only municipality in Nova Scotia without licensed childcare. And so again, we asked ourselves, how could we be of service? Because we already had a reach across Cape Breton through our after-school programs and our employment services, we felt it was a good fit. So we're really excited to be opening that center in 2023. We'll also be opening another childcare center here in Sydney, but there's more details to come on that. We also offer day camps at our Charlotte Street facility year-round, and our most popular are our summer camps. This past summer, we were fortunate to have 2 sites, one at New Dawn, which was fantastic, and the second in Westmount, in partnership with the Sydney Riverview Y Service Club. As far as employment services, as I mentioned, we have 7 sites across CBRM and rural Cape Breton. Our mandate is to match jobs to people and people to jobs, working with individuals, employers, and the sector. Since early 2022, we've been offering a federal employment program called the Opportunities Fund, which is a program to support individuals living with disabilities to gain employment. And for the past 2 years, we've been offering a program called EDGE, which aims to help and prepare, integrate youth with barriers to employment into the workplace by providing pre-employment and employment services and supports. Next slide, please. So now I want to talk a bit about YMCA and municipal partnerships, and they are countless from coast to coast. So in health and wellness, youth development, seniors program, immigration, community outreach, YMCAs and municipalities are working together like never before. They range from full-service YMCA centers to collaborative sites and satellites. YMCA collaborations promote a shared commitment to wellness and building healthy communities by providing access to innovative programs based on the need of the people and the communities in which they serve. Next slide, please. This is just some very common examples of partnerships of YMCAs and municipalities. So you'll see where the Y delivers summer day programs with or for a municipality. We see the Y delivering seniors programs with or for a municipality. We often see Y teaching swim lesson programs at municipal pools, municipalities funding Ys to deliver programs on their behalf, and municipalities collaborating with Ys to build recreation facilities and more. Next slide, please. Just want to touch on a couple of examples. The first here is the Chespenny Family YMCA in St. John's, Newfoundland. This is a beautiful facility. It's a YMCA-owned facility. The municipality provides annual grants to the YMCA to run programming. Operations completely overseen and delivered by the Y. The facility offers an aquatic center, conditioning center, community area, indoor track, childminding services, licensed childcare, and a double gymnasium for St. John's. Next slide, please. Next example is Marystown YMCA in Marystown, Newfoundland. This is a 33,000 square foot facility owned by the municipality, and the YMCA receives an annual operating grant to support operations. This model serves well for towns with small populations where a membership-based model would be a challenge. They also work with a local community advisory committee with representation from community, YMCA, municipality to advise on local needs and programming. Next slide, please. The next is the YMCA of Cumberland in Amherst, Nova Scotia. This is a YMCA owned and operated facility, and they receive contributions both from the town of Amherst and the municipality of Cumberland to provide services, and most importantly, to ensure that the pool remains open to community. So very much focused on pool programming. Next slide, please. Then we have the YMCA of Kamloops, British Columbia. The city of Kamloops provides the Y with an annual grant for program delivery for in-need populations, and a further grant per year to subsidize pool operations and provide municipal swimming opportunities. Next slide, please. Then we have the YMCA of Sarnia Lambton in Sarnia, Ontario. The municipal and provincial governments contributed generously to the building of this $7 million YMCA. The YMCA continues to provide municipal swimming lessons, public recreational swimming, and other programs to the general public under this agreement. Next slide, please. Then, of course, there's our YMCA of Cape Breton. The CBRM contributed generously as well back in 2010 to the tune of $1.5 million in the renovation of this facility. We receive an annual break on our property taxes, and CBRM employees are part of our YMCA corporate membership program, and we see them in our facilities each and every day, which is wonderful. This past year, you also made a contribution through the municipal grants program for some pool equipment that we had as well. The list really goes on, and lots of great examples right in our backyard. The ones I've mentioned, great examples also of late in Moncton, the town of New Glasgow. Really, the list goes on and on through what we can learn from these innovative partnerships. So for me, feeling there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for the YMCA of Cape Breton and the Cape Breton Regional Municipality to work closer together to support one another's mission. Next slide, please. So my message really today is to say that we're here to help and we're ready to partner. So as you think of expanding Centre 200, think of your YMCA as a partner, a stakeholder in which to consult, a leader in the community in delivering health and wellness facilities and program. As you think of recreation planning for 2023, think of your YMCA as a partner, a facility in which to make use of in delivering your activities such as children's programming, community events, seniors program. As you think of an avenue to provide increased health and wellness programming for your CBRM staff, think of your YMCA and what we can offer today and into the future. And as you think of emergency preparedness planning for your communities, think of your YMCA as a community facility with the ability to respond, provide amenities, and a safe place to gather. YMCAs have the ability to collaborate and partner with municipalities and other like-minded community organizations in the creation of innovative programs and services. So my message is we're here and we're ready to work with you. Next slide, please. There's obviously multiple ways where you can learn about our work at the YMCA, whether it's our website, Facebook, Instagram. We even have a TikTok account if you're so inclined to visit that. But more than anything, I extend a personal invitation to CBRM staff and counselors to come to the Y, participate in our programs, and just come learn about what we have to offer at our YMCA of Cape Breton. So our doors are open and we're ready and eager to partner with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. I really enjoy this part of council when we have delegations coming in to offer that educational piece of all of the services that are being provided to our community, specifically through the nonprofit sector. And I just want to make note as well that, you know, saw firsthand the incredible work that was done through the YMCA during Fiona, but also subsequently throughout our storms, power outages and what have you. So really and truly being there for the community and hearing this from community members too, how much they value the YMCA. Our speakers list, I will begin today with Deputy Mayor James Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And that was a fantastic presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very educational. And I just wanted to thank the presenter there. That was that was more than I expected this morning when I was reviewing the package here. The branches of the Y are just fantastic, and thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sabrina, if I could ask a couple of questions, if you don't mind. That last slide you had about reach out to your YMCA of Cape Breton, looking to things like recreation, programming, what have you. When it comes to, and we've had organizations come to council a number of times around court sports. So we as CBRM don't necessarily have a lot of facility space for basketball, pickleball, those types of court sports. Is that something you feel like our recreation department could work with the YMCA to create space for those types of sports?
I think so. We have a lot of court sports already taking place, whether it's drop-in basketball, pickleball, badminton. We're soon hoping to get volleyball underway as well. And so with our squash courts or even just a training facility, something we've seen of late is high school hockey teams and soccer teams coming in to use our equipment for kind of strength training as they go through their seasons as well. And so we'd be more than happy to talk about those facilities, and wanted to remind people we also have a facility in Membertou, beautiful state of the art, lots of incredible equipment, parking, which you know is an issue for us in downtown Sydney, but there's plenty of parking up in Membertou. So always open to what kind of partnership we could have, and we already have such an incredible following of people using our facilities for those court sports as well. So we'd love to open it up to others.
Yeah, we've been talking, and I know our director, Kirk Durning, has indicated that we have to look at our recreation master plan again. It's becoming a little dated as things change, our population grows. And so I think it's really important to have stakeholders like the YMCA come into that conversation around, okay, what and where do we have in our community as resources?
Great.
Okay, Councillor Gordon McDonald, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Mayor, and thanks, Sabrina. I lost my connection for a bit, so I did lose a little bit of your presentation. And I mean, it's always good to hear what the YMCA is doing around the communities and here in CBRM. But over the last 137 years since you've been in existence, I don't see a footprint over here on the north side, and I represent the north side community. You know, you got pretty much an imprint everywhere on the other side of the harbor, but there's absolutely nothing here on the north side. You know, we're looking at probably anywhere from, I don't know, 15, 20,000 people, residents over here. You know, most of my community is low income seniors. They don't get an opportunity to go to the YMCA in Sydney or in other parts of Membertou or those areas. So I'm just wondering, has there been any thought about trying to get a footprint over on the north side in some capacity, or has there been any expressions of interest? You hear the mayor talking about court sports and those facilities. We could certainly use something of that sort over, you know, for the residents that we have over here. So I'm just kind of wondering, you know, is there a plan? Is there any thoughts? Has it ever been discussed? And, you know, why has there not been a footprint over here after all these years? Thanks.
Problem. Can't speak to why there hasn't been a footprint. I've been here for about 13 months at this point, but we'll certainly tell you we are open to partnership. We're in the midst of our long-term strategic plan right now, and one of the goals is really that reach across Cape Breton, but an awareness about we need a better reach across the CBRM as well. So looking at what programs are scalable. So whether it's a seniors fitness and nutrition program, or we offer an exercise program for individuals living with cancer, those are programs that are, you know, we don't need a facility. We don't need a 60,000 square foot building in North Sydney to be able to provide those services. And so for us, it's going to be looking to those partnership opportunities, because that's how we like to enter community. We certainly don't want to enter on our own, but if you thought there was any good partnership opportunities, Councillor McDonald, would love to hear more about them.
Thanks, Sabrina. And I definitely have some people that nonprofits that may have an interest in something to do in that capacity. So I may be reaching out to you in the future to see what kind of initiatives we could probably look at.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Great question, Councillor. Any further questions or comments for Sabrina? Okay, well, listen, just want to express our gratitude for you coming in, making space, enduring the storm to make sure you were able to present today. Like I said, not only to our council, but to the viewing audience as well. It's really important to be able to share with the community the good stuff that's happening within the blocks around us. So thank you so much. And I will note, and I made a note here, we really do want to explore where those opportunities for partnership are. And when we do open up that recreation master plan, I think it's imperative that the YMCA is there.
Excellent. We look forward to that phone call for sure.
Amazing.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.
Take good care. Stay safe.
Bye.
All right. So we can now move on to item number 4, which is business arising. So item 4.1 comes out of our January 31st, 2023 meeting. And that was the request from New Dawn Enterprises to review a list of surplus properties. So I think, yeah, Sheila's online there. And we do have representation from New Dawn here as well. Sheila, I will just hand it over to you to lead on this today.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall. As many of you know, at a council meeting held on January 31st, council passed a motion directing staff to proceed with the procedural review process for surplus property as requested by New Dawn Enterprises. The applicant asked council to consider transferring 11 parcels of land located throughout the municipality for nominal consideration with regard to a housing development on the various sites. The lots are identified and outlined in my issue paper attachments on pages 20 to 30 of your agenda. So a little background information. As part of the CMHC Rapid Housing Initiative, the applicant wishes to apply to the program for funding for development of newly residential units. This program is targeted to populations who are homeless or at severe risk of experiencing homelessness. If New Dawn is approved for funding under the program, they propose to build a mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units on the properties for individuals and families struggling with addiction and mental illness. The deadline for the project stream is March 15th, 2023. An internal review was completed on all 11 properties. And you'll see in my issue paper on page 18, 7 out of the 11 properties are not required for municipal purposes and have no issues and are deemed surplus for sale. 3 out of the 11 properties are also not required. However, it appears from our maps there may be possible encroachments by adjacent property owners. The remaining property, Public Works confirmed and is recommending CBRM retain a portion of this property for future maintenance. I would like to note that any proposed transfer of surplus properties and subsequent development would be subject to surveys, title searches, and compliance with land use bylaws, issuance of building development permits, and any other applicable legislative or government regulation. The assessed values are also indicated below on page 18. 10 of the 11 properties equate to 127,700. There is one parcel that is not currently assessed. Staff in the tax department have reached out to PVSC and they are working on getting that property added to the assessment roll. Pursuant to property management policy and the Municipal Government Act, a municipality can sell surplus land or sell land at a price less than market value to a nonprofit organization the council considers to be carrying on an activity that is beneficial to the municipality. It first must hold a public hearing if it is being sold or conveyed less than market value. So given the content of the applicant's development proposal, the recognition of the commitment to the community and pursuant to existing policies and legislative authority, it is reasonable for council to consider the request of the applicant. The funding program is a national competition and the applicants are scored based on various weighted criteria. All applications will be prioritized based on contributions towards cost sharing, and any contribution of land from CBRM would count towards the cost sharing component of the application. As presented to council on January 31st, New Dawn stated in their presentation that without CBRM's in-kind contribution of land, their chances of scoring competitively on their application would be greatly reduced. So council has 3 options. Council can pass a motion recognizing New Dawn's development proposal as an activity beneficial to the municipality and hold a public hearing with respect to the proposed sale to New Dawn for $1, and that any sale or transfer to the applicant would be conditional upon receipt of approval of funding under the funding stream, project stream. Or they can pass a motion offering to sell the properties at market value or to deny the applicant's request and retain ownership. So you have 3 options. So I'm here to answer any questions, and as well things that I can't answer, I will defer.
Thank you, Sheila. Excuse me, council. There are the 3 options that have been provided to council. I'll head to our speakers list. Councillor Steve Parsons, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sheila, just one question for you. Of the PIDs, the lots that are available, how long have they been in our surplus inventory as surplus lands? Just curious. Thank you.
They have been there since I've started, and I've been with CBRM 11 years yesterday.
Congratulations and thank you very much.
Now, I should note that we did receive on a couple of the PIDs letters of interest, which I reviewed those files, and the interested parties didn't proceed with it at the end of the day. They didn't close.
Madam Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion if that's acceptable.
Oh, by all means, yeah. And I do have some other people who want to speak to it, but we can just add them on. They can speak to the motion if that's preferable.
I'd like to make a motion recognizing New Dawn Enterprises Development proposal as an active beneficial to the municipality and to hold a public hearing with respect to the proposed sale, number one, of course, to New Dawn for approximately $1 in accordance with the policy 4.8 of the property management policy and section 51 of the Municipal Governing Act, and that any sale or transfer of land to the applicable applicant be conditional upon approval of final funding under the RHI project stream.
I second that, Mayor.
Okay, so that motion was moved by Councillor Stu Parsons, seconded by Ken Tracy. On the motion, Councillor Gillespie, did you want to speak to that motion?
Not to the motion, Mayor. I did have a couple of questions for Sheila regarding the process.
So there is a process in place. You could speak to process because that's, I mean, sorry, the process is mentioned in the motion, so you could speak to the process.
Okay, thank you. Sheila, with regards to the 3 PIDs that look like there's some encroachment issues there, you know, when I work directly with our planning department and I get some information, there's always that little proviso at the end saying, you know, the information that we're supplying to you isn't exact. So in this situation, are those PIDs that are listed with their little yellow lines, are they exact? And do we have encroachment issues on those 3 properties?
Yeah, great question. No, the maps are basically graphical representations. They're not legal surveys. They can't be used as legal surveys. So if any property is developed on, it would be the responsibility of who's acquiring this title from CBRM, and it would be at their cost to obtain legal surveys to determine if there are valid encroachments. Now, if you look at the maps, you can see some may be just a little eve encroachment, which if you got a legal survey, it may possibly not even be an encroachment at all. Some could be just a maintenance of the property.
Okay, and that's what I wanted some clarification on. So, and any costs associated with that work is going to not be CBRM's, but will end up being New Dawn's, correct?
Correct. And that's standard across the board. Like, it's in our policy that anybody wishing to acquire title from CBRM and is their responsibility to bore the cost of any title searching, migration, legal surveys, subdivisions. That would all fall on the person acquiring the title.
Okay, thank you. Follow up to that, as in the presentation or the request from New Dawn, they're talking about possibly 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 and 4 unit buildings. I'm just wondering what the second part of that process would be with regards to 3 and 4 unit buildings. That's not a given, of course, having the opportunity, having to go back to the planning department and maybe bring something back to council. Is that correct?
Well, I think, and again, I'm not privy to a lot of their development. I can't really speak to that. I can say that any development on any of the lots have to be in compliance with our bylaws and planning strategy and permitting system, which would all go through planning and other legislative, whether it's a driveway that has to go in, any type of issue of that nature. So,
okay.
I hope.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just wanted to just a bit of clarification before we go forward here. I'm in complete agreement with this. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be involved in rapid housing. As we've discussed in the past, we just don't have the money to be involved in something that really is not a municipal issue. They're given the opportunity to turn over surplus property to a group organization such as New Dawn that wants to go forward with this, and the rapid housing initiative, I think, would be fantastic. So I would like to just, if any councillors have any concerns with regards to their area, since, as my father would say, I don't have a horse in this race. None of these areas, PIDs, are in my district. But if there's any concerns, that'd be great. But if not, I'm all for it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'm just trying to keep track of this list. I'm sorry. So Councillor Green, your questions were answered. Perfect. Councillor Glenn Perouche, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Gillespie hit on my questions. Just so the 3 properties that do have encroachments, when they have to go get surveys, that cost is absorbed from New Dawn. Is that correct? Not the homeowners that are there now. That'll be absorbed through New Dawn. Okay.
Correct.
And when it comes, will we be doing anything else in kind? Like, I know there's one property that we didn't get back to yet that doesn't have water. Will that be something that we'll be looking at in the future if that lot is deemed successful for this for the applicant? Will we be doing anything in kind on that front? I guess that could be for.
I would defer that to the Director of Engineering, but I'll just say that in normal process, when we convey property to an applicant, they're responsible to bring those services. So I would assume the same would be here, but I'll defer that to Councillor McDonald, or to Director McDonald.
Director,
Is he on the call, Mayor?
I thought I saw him this morning. I'm just trying.
He was on, but he's not now.
He was. And I know that there's been a little bit of blipping connectivity.
I think calling them counselor may have just gotten right off the whole thing.
Director Roos, I know you just popped up on the screen. Did you want to comment to any of that?
Yeah, I guess generally staff had prepared an issue paper outlining options for council's participation in affordable housing. And I know that there is the intent to have a workshop with council at some point in the future. So I think that the discussion point around provision of infrastructure and all those things will be had at that point in time.
Very political correct answer, Director Roost. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Councillor Gordon McDonald.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Sheila, for the information package that you presented here today. So Director Roos just mentioned the issue paper. This has been something I've been saying a long time, that we should be looking at ways to be able to give our land off for dollars so that we can get it developed and people are able to use it. So I like the initiative and what that brings, but it would have been nice to have that issue paper prior to getting to this point, to see what we really do have in the line of resources to be able to help with affordable and housing in general for the CBRM. I believe I put that issue paper request in back in July of 2022, and we still haven't got it. So it's just one of those things that I think it's important that we look at whatever abilities we have to be able to push ahead. And I like this rapid housing program, and there's lots of experience from New Dawn with it. One of my concerns would be that recently New Dawn has kind of get out of the market. They sold off all their units that they had. We a lot of them here on the north side and some over on the other side. So I'm just kind of wondering, what my mind's asking, why now? Why getting back into something that they just decided they were getting out of? So other than that, I think it's a good opportunity for money to come this way, and housing should be developed. So other than that, if nobody can answer those questions, and when, Michael, will we be doing that workshop on the affordable housing report that we requested a while ago? Thanks.
Yeah, I can't really speak to when. That would kind of be at the discretion of the agenda review team. That issue paper, to my knowledge, was completed, I believe, back in November. So staff are ready to go. Obviously, we're hoping to get more information once the province has completed the housing needs assessment. I know council participated in an engagement session maybe prior to Christmas on that as well. So, it's a dynamic situation and we're trying to work as quickly as possible. So I think having that workshop sooner than later would be beneficial for everyone.
Agreed. And the proponent is here from New representation of the proponent in the application is here from New Dawn. So I don't know, Ms. Shea, if you wanted to respond to Gordon's question.
Great, I would love to. If I might, just want to jump back and make one additional clarification. So the proposal is to create 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units, not 1, 2, 3, and 4 unit buildings. So the largest building that we'll be building is a duplex, which contains 2 units. And then there'll be some diversity in terms of the unit size to accommodate families. Councillor McDonald, again, a clarification. So first, New Dawn did not sell off all of its housing. Second, New Dawn never hinted or explicitly indicated that we were getting out of housing. Quite the contrary, in all of the media interviews we did at the time, we indicated that we were very much staying in housing. We continue, aside from the recent sales, to own a number of houses and apartment complexes. Housing is really important to New Dawn, and that's not going to change in the near or distant future. The units that we did sell were built 35 years ago, and as with any organization, are looking to turn over stock where our ownership is no longer required. The buildings that we sold will stay as housing, and we are turning our attention now, as is outlined in our proposal, to building new units for vulnerable populations. So we conveyed units to property owners who we deem to share our values and outlook, to free up capital, to allow us to do some more development work over the next 5 years, to play a role that we deem to be important in terms of helping to address the current housing crisis. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Erica. It does somewhat answer my question. My story, I'm going by the front page article that was in the Post there a couple of months ago, when you indicated you were getting out of that market housing and you were going to restart back into the rapid housing initiative. So I do know that there was some buildings that were sold off from Don. That was my concern. And my question really was, why were you selling it off and then jumping back into it? That's all.
Okay, that's your time. Thank you. Next question, Councillor James, or Deputy Mayor James Edwards, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you both Sheila and Erica for the explanations there, and happy anniversary, Sheila, belated yesterday. But you know what, that takes me to my point here. I think Councillor Parsons' question about the land sitting vacant and collecting weeds for the past 11 years is most telling. Here we have an organization that basically shovel ready to go, and to prepare a feature that's sorely missing in CBRM. So I'm 100% behind this initiative, and I will be supporting the motion there for number one. And thank you all again to the presenters. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
No problem. On your second opportunity, Councillor Glenn Perouche.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Erica, for being here today to answer some of the questions. When it comes to this in public consultation, as this plays out, which I'm assuming most are going to be in agreement here with this initiative that you guys are trying to do, you have any timelines to speak to the residents in these particular areas where the PIDs are, just to see where they're at? Because I know there is some stigma when it comes to these types of developments, but seeing on how you're strategically planning the mode it would work at, do you guys have any timelines as to public consultation?
Yeah, well, as I understand the CBRM process, the next step entails a public hearing that would be advertised in advance. That creates one forum for feedback from the community. We don't have any consultation with the neighboring residents planned, as has been referenced on this call. The housing for people who are living with or recovering from mental illness and addictions does tend to be quite stigmatized. However, these people in need of this housing are suffering, and they are our people. We've been operating supportive housing for individuals with mental illness for the last 18 years. And with the rare exception, I don't think anyone could pick out this housing from other units in a neighborhood. They, like us, want to go about their days, spend time with their families, go to work, volunteer in the community. If there's a requirement for public consultation as part of this process, very happy to participate in that. I will note that in some communities in British Columbia, municipal councils have elected to explicitly forego public consultation around the building of supportive housing because of the not in my backyard mentality that puts in place barriers to building housing for our most vulnerable residents. So we don't have any public consultation planned. I suspect the public hearings provide an opportunity for feedback, and we're happy to participate in anything that the municipality would put in place.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Councillor, I just added this to my little action list as well. So we can do some work around really making sure the community is aware of the public hearing well in advance, so people have ample opportunity to provide comment. They don't actually have to be there at the session. They can provide written comment, even phone calls and messages and what have you. So we can definitely do our best to provide that opportunity and avenue for comment. Councillor Eldon McDonald, on your first opportunity.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. My question through you to staff, probably to maybe Sheila or Director Roos. I'm just wondering, in regards to the motion that's been put forward, mentions that once the rapid housing stream is approved for this particular development, that the transfer of land would happen. So would that depend on how much funding is acquired for that property? Like, do all 11 properties get transferred automatically once they receive funding, or do they have to receive a certain level of funding to receive all 11 parcels of property? They may get approved for 4 properties that they could develop, but if we turn all 11 over, what happens to the other properties beyond that? And the other question I would have, I guess, is in regards to the window of opportunity of, I think the housing has to be built within an 18-month period. If the properties that do get turned over aren't developed in that timeline, do those properties refer back to CBRM? I think back a year ago that I had a developer wishing to acquire surplus land in the CBRM at market value. And I was told that they would have to submit a proposal of what they plan on putting on that property before CBRM would consider going through all the work of figuring out the surplus land that would be there, because some of it may be retained by CBRM. Those developers didn't bother to move forward with any proposal, not that I'm aware of anyway. So with this particular proposal, there's no actual development plans to say that we're going to give you PID number, whatever the PID is, and here's what we actually plan on putting in that property, which was the request that was requested of me to bring back to those developers. So how would that work in this case?
So from the surplus property, sale of surplus properties, I would recommend, or I would suggest that when the conveyance, they get approved for the funding, there would be a covenant attached in the deed that if the property wasn't developed on within a certain time period, that the property would come back to CBRM for $1.
And these properties, just for clarity on that, and these properties, once funding is approved, they have to be built within 18 months. Is that correct? The units have to
That's
be ready
what I
to occupy?
understand, but Michael, do you want to speak to that? That's my understanding of it. Yes, that there's an 18-month timeline.
Yeah, the RHI program has an 18-month timeline.
So if those properties aren't developed within 18 months, what happens to them? Yeah,
Well,
return back.
it's a little bit different than our city stream project that we would be awarding. This request is for the project stream. So they'd be essentially working directly with CMHC on their projects. So, you know, if for whatever reason they ran into delays, they'd be dealing with CMHC on how to manage that.
Yeah, my question is around if the properties aren't developed and the program is finished and the properties still aren't developed, do they hold those properties for the next 5, 10, 15 years? Or at what point do they come back to us?
So the restricted covenant that will go into that deed will allow that if it's not developed within that time frame, then the CAO has the authority to give an extension. So say if they went a month over or 2 months over or 3 months, and everybody as part of the program agreed to that it was permitted, then they would contact CBRM to say, can I have an extension? If the property doesn't developed on, it then comes back to the municipality for $1.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Next, I have Councillor Lorne Green. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, Councillor Eldon McDonald asked quite a few of my questions. The only question I have as a result of that is in terms of timeline and public participation, because this has a deadline of March, whatever it is, when do we expect, because it's our responsibility now to hold a public hearing, and according to the MGA, isn't there a certain time frame that we have to adhere to hold a public hearing? For example, we couldn't hold a public hearing next week because obviously there's not enough public notice. So I'm just wondering, can somebody clarify when the public hearing would take place?
So the clerk's office is working with our department to get a date. We expect that it's going to be the 1st of March.
Okay, so I just want to make.
Yep, we have to. There is a timeline that we have to be mindful.
Right. Yeah, because this is time sensitive, and I just want to make sure that you know, the public has the opportunity, and we do our due diligence according to the MGA, because we don't want to leave any dots on T's uncrossed and I's undotted on this one. So I just wondered on that. Thank you.
Great question. On your second opportunity, Councillor Steve Gillespie.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm good. My question was asked and answered.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
Question.
Okay, question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Really grateful to the staff, I have to say, for working so remarkably fast, and specifically Sheila for getting all of those properties vetted in superhuman time. It is such an important issue in our community to provide supportive housing. And I'm also really proud of council for recognizing this collectively, that we have resources that we can provide to help the community grow and provide the housing that is needed. So I hope this is the first of many of these types of projects that we see come across our desks. Also, thank you, Erica, for being here to answer questions on behalf of New Dawn. And we will be scheduling that public hearing very, very soon in accordance to the MGA, of course. But thank you all for your work on this very important topic.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so on to item number 6, which is financial statements. We do have our CFO here. And I do have children in the background. I'm sorry for any disruption. So 6.1 is CBRM financials up to December 31st, 2022. Are there any questions? I see Councilor Prush, did you want to speak to that, or is that an accident?
I just have more of a comment, Madam Mayor, if I could actually lower my hand, sorry. Just knowing on how fast this process played out, it proves to me that there's other areas when we're doing work within the CBRM that we can be fast tracking some of our things. So I'm hoping collectively as a council within the next 18 months, when there's certain projects that we do want to get off the ground, I hope staff and council can actually come together, seeing as we had one council meeting, now we had this council meeting in a very short time to do something that's good for the public. So I'm hoping this is the start of some good things with us as a council to move some priority projects along. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I love that sentiment, Councillor. And I just think it goes to show that when we do work together, we work together so well, because it's great. It's wonderful. It's needed. It's recognizing a gap in the community. And yeah, again, big kudos to our staff too, for really moving that legal process along fast. Sorry, excuse me. So on the financial statements, are there any comments or questions? Councilor Parsons, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not specifically on what's presented as the financial picture of us, but more of financially going forward, budget coming up. I've done a lot of thinking with the budget coming up. So it'll be our third budget that we're going to undertake, but we haven't reflected back on our initial strategies, priorities as a new council. And I think it would be prudent to have that meeting to review where we are according to what we wanted to do as a part of budget talks, because it's hard to plan for capital when we haven't really reviewed our strategic plan as we put forward in the first year. So I would make that suggestion for those organizing our budgets. Thank you.
Oh no, I think that's a great suggestion. And also, I know Director Wayne McDonald brings up a list of capital priorities that was approved by council prior to this council. So I think having both of those list of priorities, so the capital stuff, also our strategic priorities, take a look and reflect. So I've just added that to our list to do. Great suggestion, Councillor. Councillor Gillespie, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This question to CFO Jennifer Campbell. Jennifer, can you tell us where we are with our conversations on storm recovery costs with the province and the federal government?
We're still recovering from Fiona and still continue to accumulate costs. So that the deadline for the submission, I think that was extended to residents to the end of February, doesn't apply to municipalities. So we have several months ahead of us that we're still going to continue to do the work, and then discussions with the other levels of government on recovery will move forward at that time upon claim submission.
Okay, so nothing as of yet, but we're still accumulating costs.
That's right.
If I could kind of ride on the coattails of that question, Jennifer, I'm wondering, I know that there has been a lot of effort on behalf of staff to get the repayments from the 2016 floods from the DFA. How is that process going?
That's still a work in progress as well.
Yeah. So carrying over the costs from 2016 and still waiting to submit for this storm as well. So just so folks understand, it's an incredibly long process and somewhat frustrating at times. I know Jennifer has had to provide additional information on several occasions. But the CBRM are carrying that debt load for sure. Councillor Elder McDonald, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. My question was on the very same thing that you raised. I won't be probably as polite as you have spoken. For me, the 2016 flood, it's absolutely unacceptable that we're still waiting for $1 million from the provincial government since 2016. I stand to be corrected on any of this information. And Jennifer, you can correct me, or someone from the province correct me if they wish, but we just received a scathing letter from the provincial government on the inability of our municipality to be able to be sustainable, basically is what it says. And I welcome them to come down to our municipality and sit down with us and have a one-on-one around a table, and let's figure that out together. And I welcome that opportunity. For me, to have this money outstanding, and I will go through you to Madam Mayor, to Jennifer, and I hope, Jennifer, I don't put you on the spot. It's my understanding that we're kind of rebuilding that file to be resubmitted because they had it and somehow it kind of, I'll use the term, fell apart in their offices, and we're trying to reestablish it and put it back together and resubmit it. That's unbelievable. They should send their people down here and rebuild it themselves with our staff. Our staff is having to do double duty to rebuild a file and cost more money of our taxpayers because the inability of them to keep a file together to reimburse us money from 2016. Unacceptable. We're paying double duty on building a file twice. Are they going to include the revenue that it costs our staff and our hourly wage for every person that works to rebuild that? Are they going to reimburse us that money? Maybe they can tag it on to the $15 million that they give us. This is unacceptable that we're waiting since 2016 for money from the provincial government. It's totally unacceptable, and I can't wait to have this letter addressed as they sent to us. This does not sit well with me, and Madam Mayor, I'm glad you were able to bring it across a little better than myself, but for me, something needs to be done with the province to figure out how they deal with their finances, not how we deal with ours. We do a phenomenal job with our staff figuring out with the revenue that we have. It seems to me the problem is on their end, not on ours. I'll just leave it at that.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Madam CFO, can you detail for us how much money we are still carrying from that 2016 claim?
So our total claims for Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Dorian total about $1.8 million. The province advanced us on Matthew $900,000 in December. So we're carrying the balance basically of another $900,000. In fairness to EMO, they did offer to have our auditor reconstruct the file for us to try to take that burden off of our staff, but they're not involved in the claims process. What was the costs that were incurred to have them try to reconstruct the file going in blind would take up more of my time than if I just did it myself. So I rejected that offer and working to put the file back together. It's almost done. It'll probably be submitted by the end of the month.
So what I might suggest too, and I'll add this to our action list, is that when we do go into our budget conversations, I do believe we have to have a session particular to the financial impact of storms of late, but also what kind of debt we're carrying from previous storms too, because we have to be mindful of this when we go into budget. This is not just, okay, we'll just keep carrying it and keep it on the books. It's impacting us. If this continues to happen, which we know it will, we will be accruing more and more debt related to disaster financial assistance. So I think including this in our budget as a standalone focus is very, very important. Are there any other questions for the CFO regarding the financial statements? Okay. Next is item 6.2, Port of Sydney Development Corporation. Again, financial statements to December 31st, 2022. Oh, Councillor Parsons, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question maybe to Marie as it relates to the ports in terms of their presentation to us as council back in January in terms of the terms of reference in the port and the asset itself. Just wondering, is there a date of follow-up for that particular resolution that is brought back to council for a final decision? Thank you.
We actually met with Port staff and their legal counsel. So it's in their hand. They're going to come back with, after discussions, they're coming back with a legal lease or proposal to us, and then we'll be bringing it back to council with a recommendation. So we're just
Thank you.
waiting to come back. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for questions and comments. So before we conclude our meeting here this morning, I just kind of want to review a list of actions that have come out of discussions and conversations today. So one thing I did note was the need for a review of our recreation master plan. I think I said this at the last meeting as well, but really that presentation from the YMCA really reiterates why we need to take a peek at it again, and also include stakeholders in the community to see how we can expand and partner on different avenues within recreation. Also, I want to just make a quick note about, budget is coming up. So over the next couple of months, we're going to see public consultation sessions again in each of the communities. Really excited to have council participate in that and really connect with the public and see what their insight and ideas are for our budget coming up. The public hearing will be set for all of those PIDs that were listed in the New Dawn project. And I did note that we will, as a council, proactively and collectively be pushing out that information so people have ample opportunity to bring their opinions and thoughts to that process. And to Councillor C. Parsons' point, including in our budget process, pre-budget process, I should say, is a review of our strategic vision, our strategic priorities, but also our capital priorities too. So we have a good headspace on where we want to be, where we are, and what we need to see reflected in our budget this year. So did I miss anything coming out of this meeting? Oh, sorry, Councillor Perush, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question when it came to the port with repairs, just looking at the financial statements. So it says right now that they've done 0 repairs and there's $80,000 left for repairs. If they don't do any repairs in this calendar year with that money, are we allowed to use that money when it comes to some of the repairs that they want us on the hook for?
I'll defer to the CAO on that. I'm not sure how that works.
It's just a curiosity question. If either
That's a good question.
Jennifer or Marie.
In terms of surplus for them, do you mean, Councillor?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking like where it says repairs to the Joan Harris Cruise Pavilion. This year, actual date 0, but they have $80,000 allotted. So where they're always saying that we have repairs to do, if they're not like that money in their budget for $80,000, what typically would that be used for repairs where we know there's undermining, things like that? If at the end of the year, if it's still in their budget and they're not doing any of the general maintenance, can we allot that for something to help alleviate some of the stress with the major repairs?
We could. We are the only shareholder, so we could direct that money. What the agreement is now, any surplus is dedicated to capital or capital repairs. So yes, you could. I mean, I don't know with the current negotiations going on, I don't know how that is going to play out, because we're looking at different governance models for that. So it's kind of a hard question to answer right now while we're negotiating different governance model.
Can I ask one question of you, Marie? And if you can't answer it, you can just say no comment. But when it comes to the deferrals of our payments over the last couple of years, is this something that is being discussed in this governance model? We still have the Nickerson money that isn't squared up yet. We have deferrals from them. Is this all in the conversation when we're talking governance?
When we come back to council, it'll have to be a fulsome discussion on everything that's on the table.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Great. Anything else, council? Oh, sorry, Councillor Eldon McDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to follow up just on Councillor Perush's questions. So I would be under the impression that the $80,000 that they have budgeted in their budget line would be looking for major repairs, renovations to the dock. And I'll use, as I always do, the dock itself with the area that's in question. And they would use that $80,000 to try to leverage from other entities, other partners, to be able to come up with the full amount, that would be needed to repair that. Would that be a fair analogy of that 80,000? Or would that 80,000 be something that could be used for painting and general minor upkeep as opposed to major projects? If someone could speak to that, Marie or Jenna, if these could.
I would suggest that they were probably going to use that for leverage when they apply for funds, but without them at the table, I can't say that for sure, but I would suggest that that was probably going to be leveraged with other funding that they didn't get.
Yeah, so I would like to know the answer to that. If they're not planning on leveraging money with that, and there's other maintenance to be done, what other maintenance could be done within that 80,000 window that's not leveraged? So I'd be just curious to get an answer on that. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I don't see any more requests to speak. So great questions and lots of follow-up to do with the port as well as, and eager to hear what comes out of the conversations between our staff around governance models. That will be coming back to council relatively soon, I do suspect, Madam CAO.
Yes, as soon as we hear back from them, we will put it on the agenda.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you everybody for making it possible to have a snow day council meeting. I think this is a great example of being able to pivot, keep doing our jobs, and in the world of virtual gatherings. So I'm going to conclude and close our meeting for today. Lots of work on the to-do list coming out of today's discussion. And again, thank you to everybody for your time, your thoughts, and your consideration. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
You can